Hello there.
Hello.
Hi,
We
friends.
are obviously missing one of the people from last week because they are at wrestling school, becoming the most badass professional wrestler you have ever seen. But hopefully Rachel will at some point be able to join us for one of these. They may not be able to, which I understand.
Yeah. Wrestling is a big deal.
Wrestling's a
So
big deal.
Yeah. So, hello everyone. Two
Hello.
people who were on the session and one who was not. How are
I'm
you all
just
doing
here to
this
look
evening?
pretty. It's
Yeah.
fine.
You're doing a great job.
You know,
Phenomenal.
Thank you.
I imagine we'll also be talking a bit about the world and not just about exactly what happened last Tuesday. So there's
sure,
a place
for
for
sure.
you, Zeki, I promise.
And I did catch a bit of it. I just was also doing names any other thing, and I was probably working on it.
Pooping.
Maybe.
Boom. There you go.
Probably happened.
You have it on camera forever.
Mhm.
So this is new for us, and we're still sort of figuring out what the format is going to be.
Slash the name.
The name
Yeah.
is definitely a work in progress. The name of the campaign is also a work in progress.
Yeah.
We'll come up with something.
Ben,
This
I need
may-
it. I need to make a logo for it. I need it.
No, we need to figure it out.
Fair.
But I think probably what we will do is very quickly kind of go over what happened in last week's episode, just in case people, miss an episode and they're like, I don't really want to go back and watch the whole thing. I want to make it like user friendly to be
Which
like, hey,
is
here's
wrong, by the way. What?
Yes,
No, I'm
but
kidding. I'm kidding.
But, I just want to make like a kind of like user friendly. Hey, if you want the quick TLDR, and then kind of we'll go in a little bit more of like behind the scenes stuff, things that changed with characters, things that we didn't expect to happen, cool dice rolls, what have you.
Yeah.
So Ben,
let's dive in because we do have a limited time with
Yes,
Ryan
we have an
tonight.
hour.
So let's
Yes.
dive.
I'm
right
sorry,
in.
folks. I have family things as always, and I only have a couple minutes this week.
Totally fine.
Reasonable.
Yeah.
So let's talk just sort of like quick recap. Basically, you guys had dinner, had breakfast, and went to a carnival, and
Yeah.
Ryan got a date.
Nice.
That is the long and short of it.
They did.
What's the short of the long? of it?
And Rev got real toasty.
That's true.
that's true.
That's true.
That's very true.
Yeah.
But I think that the pieces that I really want to talk about and dig into are sort of like those interpersonal elements. Like I know like one thing I really wanted to chat to Ryan about before we lose you is like your character is completely different personality wise than you were expecting.
Yeah, she really is. And we were talking about it literally as the session was happening in our private chat. I was just like, oh my God, I've taken her a completely different direction than I thought. I was really ready for her to be a little bit more awkward and unused to people and uncomfortable. And I kind of just didn't make a conscious choice, but she wasn't that. She walked out she opened the door to Bergen, to her landlord, which was one of my favorite interactions of the campaign, and I cannot wait to continue exploring that relationship. And she just suddenly existed in what I didn't expect. She had a mind of her own, and yeah, you're not wrong, Valor. You ended up with a disaster day. She is
Delightful.
yeah, she's gonna be fun. There's
I
a
love
part of me
her.
that went from like, Ben and I are gonna explore like her relationship with her patron, and now I like cannot wait to talk to you, Ben, about the idea of like her relationship with Bergen and Rosie, and like has she ever brought anyone home to them, and what does that look like? And like, we'll find out.
I mean, I do think there's a certain amount of like surrogate parents who like, yes, they are like professionally obligated to take care of you, but also like the sense that I got from like as we went through it, because I was just like sort of I had no plans for those characters to exist until it was like, oh, you've got like for sure he's a dwarf, and I don't know why, this landlord who like definitely cares more about you than like he's obligated to. And then I was like, he's probably got kids, like that's why he is so like patient with this person who is like the disaster gay. And then I was like, also, like, why not have his wife be like this super mom who like has this like crazy backstory that like maybe we'll get into, maybe we won't.
Yeah.
appreciated the also
Well-
like stereotype flipping of the couple as well, where she is
Mhm.
like this fighter and he is sort of more of like the
Taylor.
homemaker, but she's also the homemaker.
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah.
you know, yeah. I
When
appreciate
you
that.
said kids, and my initial reaction for her was kids, and I like said it as like okay, does she even remember he has children? And then we interacted with the kids, and I was like, no, she's these kids' like favorite person.
Yes.
She's their favorite aunt, and doesn't
Yes.
realize that that's who she is to them, and she will die for these children, but doesn't know she'll die for these children, right?
Yes.
Like, yeah. And it was just like, no, she is I finally, I think, understand authors who say that characters have a mind of their own, because I have no idea where Rev's going now. She's gonna lead it herself.
Yeah, it's wild. It happened with like a number of characters over the course of the thing,
Yeah.
over the course of the session,
Yeah.
where I was like, oh, I had a very different idea of who this was, and now that I'm like interacting with you, this is a hard left turn. But yeah,
I mean,
can you give me another
Jeffrey-
example?
Jeffrey, I feel like Jeffrey took a hard left turn when those
There is-
dragon drinks arrived.
there was that moment where I was like, I mean, yeah, he's like probably some sort of like spellcaster at some point, but like, you know, whatever. And then I was like, he's just gonna like glide down 4 flights, but like he's gonna slow fall. And I was like, he should just be like this like absurdly powerful being. And I was like, he should just be a fucking dragon in disguise.
Oh, you didn't even
Like, of
know?
No, I had no plans.
Oh
It
my
was- as we were going, I was like, oh, but like when you rolled a natural 20, I was like, okay, what could be a giveaway? I was like, if he's got this like really good facade, what's the easiest thing to forget about? Your eyes, because you can't see your own eyes unless you are actively staring in a mirror. So like if you're going to accidentally let something slip, it's probably something to do with your face. And most likely your eyes, which, you know, like windows to someone's soul, whatever. And I was like, on a nat 20, yeah, he totally slips up and you totally see his eyes. And I was like, okay, what can I do with eyes? Either demonic, which is like, okay, fuck, there's somebody in here. And that takes things in a direction that I like really didn't want us to go
Yeah.
right then.
Yeah.
Or like you see like gold reptilian eyes. And I was like, of course this like ridiculously powerful, well-connected pixie character would have like this old friend of his, and they're like, yeah, let's just make him a fucking dragon.
Yes. Our pixie patron's butler is a dragon.
Yes.
Casually.
And it's like, it's totally a front, right? He's not really his butler, and truly of the two of them, Jeffrey is like infinitely more powerful. Like no shade to Giovanni, who is also like no slouch in his own right, but like between the like if they were to have a fight, Jeffrey wins easily every time.
And this is like 100%
I mean, yeah.
honest,
Dragon.
canonical.
Pixie.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
You're not-
I will fully disclose. I mean, I'm not gonna like I won't share all the
Yeah.
secrets, but I will fully
Uh-huh.
disclose like the stuff where it's like I'm kind of curious. Yeah.
Also, in that moment when Ryan was chatting with him and he
Jeffrey?
sort of
Hmm.
and he sort of bent down and his voice shifted a little bit, I was like, oh, he's not even, this is completely a persona. And I think, was that something like, was this all just improv by you in the
Yeah.
moment, Ben?
Yeah,
Like
I
100%?
was just like, I just had a moment where I was like, why would a dragon sound old as fuck unless it's like really, really old? And I was like, he's not that old. Like he's old. He's probably a couple centuries or maybe even a couple millennia old, but he's not like on death's doorstep. So why wouldn't he still have like a more resonant voice? And he just puts on this like this air to like add to this persona that he has. And it also felt like, you know, he has this moment where he's like, oh, I have this monologue prepared. Shit, I totally forgot it. Which was really me not being able to come up with, but also like
Monologue
you
in the
know,
moment. Yeah.
I was like, I don't know what I was gonna say earlier, and that also feels very like true to the character. It's like, oh, I
Yeah.
know I had a thing, I have this like, you know, whatever, but like, you know, when you associate, like when memories or things are so associated with like a specific set of actions that it's like,
Mhm.
like for example, if you were to ask me the password to my laptop, I can't tell you until I sit down and type it out, and then I'm like, oh yeah, that's the password to my laptop. Like, it's not a thing that I really remember. It's just muscle memory. And I think when he opens the door and he sort of welcomes you in and blah, 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 that's muscle memory for him. But like, he's like, full disclosure, he's an ancient gold dragon, right? Like, this dude is ludicrously powerful. what he says when he opens the door is not a thing that he thinks about consciously. Like, that doesn't make any sense for who he is. And so, like, as I had these moments, I was like, oh, okay, like, this character is kind of coming together in his own way. I was like, of course he doesn't fucking remember. He's not at the door answering it right now. Why would he remember? So, yeah, fully improv, but also, like, very reliant on, like, sort of the little bits and pieces that I was sort of picking up as we were going along and interacting with you guys.
So cool.
Yeah.
I feel like there were a couple of NPCs that got improv along the way that were...
Wolf.
Oh my gosh, Wolf.
I legitimately almost cried.
Oh.
I was like, what is
Mhm.
happening? I don't know this character.
For those of you who were not with us last week, Wolf is one of the carnival workers, the
Yeah.
circus employees.
He's a
He's
juggler.
a juggler. And everyone's favorite Modron, Patchwork, went up to learn how to juggle. And it was the sweetest thing I've ever encountered.
Yeah.
And they
It was-
bonded over having like lost their homes and sort of
Mhm.
being adrift in the world. And it was just, oh,
Yeah.
Oh dang.
yeah, it was,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it was
Highly,
a really,
Highly recommend watching it back. I went back and rewatched the whole episode the next day because I blacked it all out and had no idea what happened.
honestly, I should do that.
Yeah, and I was
Yeah.
watching that part while I was at work, and I was just like, I shouldn't be watching this at work. I'm just gonna cry at my desk.
I wanted to kind of wait till we had our session tomorrow before watching it, so that way I'm
That's fair.
like.
That's a good idea for you. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
at the same time, I want to also like be the person here tonight who's like, "Oh, what is this cool in joke you're talking about? Please explain."
Yeah, I think
Next week.
it was a really interesting session too because of the intention behind the session not necessarily being plot movement. Same with tomorrow's. The intention behind last week and tomorrow's sessions are very much showing how the group cohesion forms and like showing how we formed as this group of 3 and this group of 3 and then that group of 3 those 2 groups of 3 join together to become a group of 6.
A group of 9.
I can add. So going into those episodes, it's interesting already because you know that it's not going to be some crazy plot thing that's going to happen that's going to be wild and like it's going to make a huge difference in like the story of the campaign. But at the same time, you find these little moments like with the carnival worker, or like we find these characters that are probably going to be really important to the campaign and to those plot things, like our ancient gold dragon and like all of this stuff. And probably honestly, you know, like the landlord and his wife and his kids, like all of those characters will probably become very pertinent NPCs as this campaign goes along.
There is one thing, and I told Katie this, I think either that night or maybe it was the following day. There was like one little detail that I was really hoping that someone was going to ask about, even if they weren't in the scene, because it was one of the things with you, Ryan, and it was about Rosie. And I mentioned that she had this giant maul up on the wall, and I was really hoping that somebody was going to be like, does it have a name? Because her name is Rosie, and her maul's name is Thorn, because every rose has its thorn. Which
I
was
will
like-
give you the
like
chance to bring
thing.
it up at some point now.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things where I was like, Rev knows and doesn't care. So why
that's a
would
fair
she
point.
ask when she's
Yeah.
getting scrubbed down?
That makes sense.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I will lend you the opportunity.
It's okay. You
to
know what?
make
Maybe
that
it'll just come up
joke.
organically at some point if she ends up having to join you guys for any particular
Yeah.
reason.
Oh my god, I hope she does.
That would
Unless
be
she
great.
dies.
Oh my
She
god.
has
Process.
she has 6 tiny Irish accented dwarves at home.
Hey, they've got a dad who is a wonderful father.
I will not let her.
Well,
I don't care what plan you've got for this campaign,
I
Ben,
mean,
but if you kill Rosie, we're all just going on the revenge.
I mean, I'll tell you guys right now, like, no character is safe. Like, I don't care how much you guys love an NPC, they are not safe. If something happens to them, like, you will definitely always have an opportunity to do something about it. But like, I'm not gonna like. No one has plot armor.
Fair.
Maybe like 1 or 2 people have plot armor.
Those kids better fucking have plot armor.
Okay, the children have plot armor because
Okay,
they're
good.
adorable.
The children,
little
yeah,
orphan
they
children.
better.
Yeah.
Those children
there's
are
some
plot armored
lines.
to the nines.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we
Yeah.
got some problems.
Yeah,
You and I.
true. Are there any things that you guys encountered, or like whether they were, like things that we talked about or glossed over briefly, or descriptions, or like things that sort of like stuck with you, or like I'd like to know more about that, over the course of the session?
I me check my notes that I.
Sorry, I was
actually took.
typing in
I'm like,
chat,
Katie.
but what was the question?
I said, is there anything that we went over or I glossed over or people you interacted with or saw or descriptions that sort of like stood out to you as you're like, hey, that's a thing that I would really like to be able to come to like ask about later? Because I feel like now is probably a good time, whereas like I was describing the wharf at one point, and I definitely like pointed out a couple of things, and they weren't necessarily anything for any of us in the moment, but it is something like if you guys have questions about them now, or you're like, oh, you like mentioned that thing offhanded, and I'm kind of curious if there was like more to that, because there might not have been in the moment, but as we're talking about it, there might become something more. So like, you know.
I mean, I think that I went through that session so much as Azad that if Azad wasn't paying attention to things, Katie, the player, probably didn't pick up on things that you said, which is another reason why I want to go back and rewatch. Because like my big questions are sort of like, I want to know more about the Drake, right? Like I want to know more about these like core like hooks and things. I do have questions about the people who work in the Drake tent. I thought that they were interesting, and I couldn't tell if it was a situation where it's like they are just, you know, like kind of thugs for hire and don't ask questions, and that's the situation, or if there's more going on there. But from my perspective, I was very in her. That sounds dirty. I was very much in the mindset of the character. Yeah, that's probably better.
I think I agree with that, Katie. I think Ryan has questions about again, similar, the Drake tent. Like, you've got that group set away, but what do the other folks in that tent know or not know, and how complicit are the rest of them in this entire thing? But those are things that Rev hasn't had a chance to think about or ask about or talk about yet, and I think those are things that will come up next time around when we are at our 2 mutual meeting, our 9 p.m. meetings, to find out what the hell is up with this, right? Like, I think those are questions that we have the potential for you to answer, not right here.
Yeah, I think that's right. Ben, are there any things that we didn't dig into that we could have dug into that you were like, besides obviously the mall, but you know, anything you're like, God damn it, why didn't anyone ask about that, or why didn't anyone try to like push that door or whatever it was?
There was a particularly fancy ship at the wharf that no one asked about, that I described a little bit as being something that like most of you had never seen, which might have been an interesting thing for you guys to ask questions about. So, you know.
I don't remember you doing that, so that shows exactly where my brain was.
Yeah, you guys were on the...
also have nothing.
Yeah, you were in the cab heading to the circus with Jeffrey, and I was just sort of like describing like, you know, all the dock workers and whatnot. And then one thing that I mentioned was there was a ship there that like only maybe Patchwork would have seen, maybe.
I think if I continue to use Rev to explore like my ADHD, which in case you all hadn't picked up on, she 100% is. It's not subtle. Consistent with the way I experience the world. She will notice that ship in about 3 months and go, oh, when did that get here? And in my case, it's my mother goes, Ryan, that bagel store's been here for 12 years. So we'll come back to that.
Very relatable. Yeah. That was, I think, like the one thing. I think generally speaking, you guys kind of touched on most of the things. I think that there's definitely like there's definitely like some stuff to be explored with the folks that work in that tent. And I don't just mean your date with Jimmy, Ryan. I like the rest of them. There's like more. There's more to what's going on there, I think, than meets your eye initially.
Jimmy or the entire tent?
Both.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. There's some.
Is Ryan even interested in? Not Ryan. Jesus. Is Rev?
Ryan is not. Ryan really is not.
Ryan, wait, I'm sorry, Ryan. You don't find Jimmy this like weird, like kind of.
No, I'm asking if Rev is even.
Hang on one second. Wait, let me check today's viewers. Make sure my wife isn't in them. No, Ryan is not.
I was gonna say, is Rev even interested in men generally?
I don't know. She knows because I don't know.
Oh, Fair enough.
Like, I realized that when Ballard brought up that she was our disaster gay, and I was like, yeah, she's our disaster gay. I hadn't made that decision yet, and I don't know if she's made that decision yet, because I don't think she's thought about it, because she's been so focused on school.
Fair.
So I think we'll get to play with that a little bit, which will be fun. But no, she is in no way, shape, or form actually interested in this dude, at least as of right now. She, for those of you who were not watching, she was helping distract this dude from Azad's interactions with the actual Drake, and accidentally ended up with a date in order for her to be able to be present at Azad's 9 p.m. meeting without it being weird, with a very, very, very greasy, dirty circus man. She's super not interested. This is not where she expected it to go. She has not flirted, has not dated ever. She does not know how to do anything. And we'll see how that goes.
I think it's gonna be
Also,
great.
I think
it's gonna be hilarious.
Oh God, yeah, because
It's definitely going to be hilarious.
Ben, are we gonna go on a date?
I guess we're going on a date, Ryan. Yeah,
I love this so
I've
much.
never RP'd a date before. It's gonna be weird.
Me either. Let's have a great time.
Then it's a pretty fun thing to do. Let me tell you, the first time I did it, the NPC's shop got burned down. That wasn't a good time. Then the second time I did it, the NPC's dad showed up, and he's a full giant and started destroying a town. Wait, it has never gone well. I take it back.
This is gonna be amazing.
I'm really excited.
This is gonna be so much fun.
Yeah. I'm pretty.
I think
jazzed.
it's going to be excellent, especially because of the fact that I have no doubt that we're going to be jumping between the date and then whatever like crazy and like high stake shenanigans are going on with the Drake. So it's just going to be like comic relief interspersed between like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. And then like, here is Rev over on this disaster date. Enjoy.
It might not be a disaster. Hey, you never know. Jimmy might actually have like a really good plan. For
Maybe
a date.
he's gonna clean up really
I was
well.
going to say just
For this and this after party will be fun. We'll find out.
Jimmy clean up well.
Just Rev clean up well. Rev has
Honestly-
no intentions of going home, and she's in like one of her just like jumpsuits and is gonna drink with Jeffrey all day before this date. Rev could be the downside of this date.
Yeah, Rev could be the problem.
Yeah,
Jimmy could get there and be like, I don't really want to go on this date anymore. You're
I regret this.
drunk. Well, you showed up to our date drunk? Like, I showered.
To be
for
clear,
this.
I'm pretty
I have
sure-
shown up to dates drunk and they've gone pretty fine.
That's
So
fair.
maybe I'll draw on some life experience.
Yeah, hey, you never know.
Then I had 2
Yeah.
shots before our first date.
Now we're talking.
Did I never tell you that before?
No.
Yeah, I was nervous.
What? I mean, I guess in fairness, I did just come from a company drinking party at
You
a
did.
brewery, so
We-
there's that. But I was sober. I stopped drinking like a couple hours before. This is backstory that
This
none
is
of you
backstory that
watching
no
this
one
give a
knows.
shit about.
This
No,
is
but
a
you did-
different campaign.
Different campaign, the
campaign.
campaign of life.
But no, Ryan, you did tell him that you were going to go drinking with your grandfather until
I
the
did.
date.
That's
So
true.
you
I
have
did
set
warn him.
expectations.
Yeah.
You were like, listen, my grandpa and I, we're gonna get fucked up, and then I'm gonna come back here and we're gonna go on a date.
I do also love how
Yeah.
the relationship between you and Jeffrey developed over the course of the thing. We're like, of course you're gonna have this like well-established relationship with him, and of course he like
Right.
clearly like he has this like, yes, I have this persona where I am like a little standoffish, but like definitely has a soft spot for you because like, come on. You know, and I really liked like as that developer, I was like, oh, Jeffrey totally just like adores this kid and like would do
Yeah.
anything to protect her and like
I think I said this after the session finished when we were all just chatting, but for the sake of everybody else, in my head that relationship is whichever Lindsay Lohan twin it was who was in England, and the butler from
Annie.
Yes, Annie and the butler from Parent Trap, where like he is stuffy and stick up his ass, but he has a secret handshake with her and will like sneak her out of wherever.
Yeah.
That's kind of
Yeah.
yeah.
is Jeffrey the gay single grandpa?
Oh, let's find out.
You know, remains to be seen which way he swings. He might swing every way. Who knows?
Oh my god, are we gonna get a conversation between Jeffrey the Dragon and Rev about their various
Sexualities.
sexualities?
I
That would
mean,
be so cute. Anything's possible.
I'm gonna have to go prepare for these.
Or,
Like, emotionally
do some
and, like-
research, like maybe have a shot before we have this conversation, which would make sense because he has also been drinking with you all day.
Yeah. Wait, are we having this conversation next time we play?
No, not
That
necessarily.
seems
No.
fast.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's,
No.
it's just-
otherwise I'm
I
gonna
think-
have to go buy more alcohol.
yeah. I think it is my intention to like sort of set a tone with you guys where it's like I am not afraid to go after your backstories and like kind of dig into the relationships that you guys have and like ask probing questions, because the people that you're interacting with are people who care and want to know more about like what's going on in your life and are concerned and like want to ensure that you are doing well, not just because like they have vested interest personally, but or professionally potentially, but also like they personally care about you, right? This is somebody who found you as like a kid and was like, I like you, you're smart, I want to make sure that you're successful. Sure, and maybe it was just sort of like that initial like, this is a smart child and I want to make sure they succeed at first, but like he's been taking care of you for how long? Like there's no way that you don't get emotionally attached at some point. And he's not a sociopath, right? He does genuinely care, and he like cares about Azad,
That
and
is
is
good
like,
to know. And I will be writing that down in my notes.
there you go.
Not a
Not a
sociopath.
Not a sociopath.
Yeah. In the same way that like he was asking some pretty pointed questions about Azad and her relationship to Patchwork and to you.
Yeah, that was just right out the gate. Like,
Yeah.
okay, you're gonna make me confront this right now? Like,
Yeah.
session 0.5. Okay.
Yeah. It's just gonna get better or worse.
Yeah.
I do want to be mindful, Ryan,
Yeah, I was
of
gonna
your
say,
time.
Ryan.
Yeah, I should go. Thank you all for chit-chatting. I will talk to you all soon, and I cannot wait to see what the boys, the gentlemen get up to tomorrow.
Oh,
Yay.
boy.
So have
It's
fun
gonna be
chatting. I'll
Becky,
try
you're
and
muted,
stay-
baby. I know you're saying
I'll try and
things,
stay in
but-
chat, but
All right.
bye,
Thanks for
friends.
joining us, Ryan.
Yep.
Hit you later. Mwah.
See you later.
Bye. Yeah, I think sort of like I didn't want to talk about Azad too much while Ryan was here because I knew that she only had like a chunk of time to chat. But I think that there was some like really interesting stuff with Azad too. I think less so in like the way that Ryan opened a door and all of a sudden her character was there and it was completely not what she expected, but more so in that I realized that some of the things that I have intended for her have other consequences. And like for example, the whole purpose of Azad is sort of to play with this idea of like motherhood versus like still being young and like feeling like a child herself, and also being in like the span of her life, especially because the Acadians live for so long, relatively young. And so there's like that dichotomy, but then there's also the idea of having been in this super traumatic abusive relationship, which when we got to that part where she walked into the place where she met him, as someone who also has PTSD from a severely abusive relationship, I was like, oh, there's like mechanics here that need to happen. Like if I was going to walk into a place that was especially emotionally charged, especially that soon afterwards, like there is some sort of save that needs to like be rolled in order to not, and I call it time tripping to Ben, but basically like not just get like sucked backwards into something that happened in that space in the past. And I was like, this is an interesting mechanic for me as someone who has experience with PTSD, but also like realizing that I've built this character that kind of needs to have that or else it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And that was sort of like when we took our break, I went downstairs and I was chatting with Ben about it. And I was like, I feel like it's really important that we do this correctly. Because like it just, I want it to feel authentic to the experience as someone who wants to like play on my own life experiences with that. So that was interesting as well.
Yeah. Oh, and I think from my side, when you mentioned sort of feeling uneasy, I was like, oh yeah, you definitely have to make a charisma save. Like there's this is a lot, right? Like you have to come in and you're trying to like save face and show up like like you were very much like, I'm okay, this is gonna be great, it's gonna be so much fun, I'm like,
great,
lovely.
everything's fine,
It's
I'm fine, it's fine.
It's like when you walk into a space, that like anyone who's gone through a particularly like emotionally charged experience and you begin to, you associate a place with that experience, if you go back to that place, you're gonna have those feelings come up, right? It's inevitable. It's how we operate as organisms, and you're not, just because we're in a fantasy space doesn't mean that you're not going to have those same reactions. And I was like, yeah, you definitely have to make some sort of a charisma saving throw to like deal with these feelings that are going to creep up, whether you want them to or not, and how they then impact how you interact with the rest of the group, or you interact with the scene as a whole, is going to be somewhat informed by that. Not completely, right? I don't want you to like have this like moment where it's like, oh, okay, you're basically out of the scene forever.
No.
So that's not fun. That doesn't really, but it is going to shape how your interactions go, because you will be, more or less distracted depending on how you're doing.
And it's something that I feel very comfortable playing with mechanically with you, and I wouldn't feel comfortable if I didn't personally have experience with it, right? Like if it wasn't something that I was clinically diagnosed with and have been struggling with and like have had like periods of my life that have been like very consumed by it, I don't know that this is the kind of avenue that I would want to take. But I also want it to be, this is gonna get like a little bit down a rabbit hole, but like I want it to be accessible, and I don't want it to like fuck up the whole campaign, and I want it to be something that we can play with without it being like similarly to something like PTSD, it's not your whole life, right? Like you can still be a person, have relationships, do things, and exist like with this.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a way that we can do that mechanically within this campaign that like I really truly had not thought about until we started playing.
Yeah. Like to Balor's point there in chat, like it's a delicate topic that can be handled poorly, easily, but potentially very beneficial if done well. And I think back to campaign 2 of Unsleeping City, where they were dealing with a character who was like sober, or actually 2 characters that were sober, and having these roles for like recovering from addiction. And I thought that was a really interesting way of like, yeah, like you are ostensibly making a Constitution saving throw, because especially in these moments of really intense emotional distress, like what are you going to go back to? You're going to go back to that thing that is like, that has gotten you through this before.
Yeah.
And that's going to be really hard. And there has to be some way to explore that. And, like mechanically, yes, there should be a way for that to play out. But like, I think that I hope that I was pretty clear from the top that like one of the things that we're going to be like one of the like main themes of this is going to be this exploration of like trauma, and in some cases it's very much informed by character, like the player's traumas, and sometimes it's just like or it's an exploration of neurodivergence, as somebody who is wildly ADHD and has severe depression, like there is definitely like stuff to explore there. I've gotten through breakups by playing characters that were having a really hard time. Like that's D&D is a really great way to explore your feelings and to explore things that you've experienced in a way that you have control over, and also like you have magical powers, so you can like fuck that shit up if you really want to.
And then we have to talk about how we're going to kind of convert all this into Pathfinder to get that same sort of play and exploration and be able to handle these topics, because like there's a piece of this, and we've been very upfront about this, where it's like we know D&D, so we know how to bend the rules in D&D and like play in a way where we can handle these hard and intense and difficult and potentially like traumatic topics and still feel comfortable playing in that space. And I think it's going to take a little bit of time for us to feel that way with Pathfinder. And we've set this. We are planning to switch over to Pathfinder. We are already in the process of, getting all of that set up, understanding how to port characters, understanding the system.
I'm plotting out how we're going to introduce it into the campaign.
Yes.
We'll talk at length about this another time, but I am planning on introducing mechanics, like a few at a time, to sort of integrate it into the mechanics of 5e, and we'll begin to sort of like shift the dynamics so that when we do transition fully over to E, that it's not just like, okay, what is that saving throw? I don't know what I'm doing. So I kind of have a plan there. We do have plans to do like some stuff that's dedicated to that explicitly, and I do want to keep this sort of like as a talk back and chatting about the sessions, but I did want to acknowledge that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, what I'm saying is also not entirely related to the talk back, but just that we are acknowledging that like we are getting into some heavy shit, and that we want to make sure that we are doing it justice with a new system.
Ryan says, I'd love for us to continue to be super transparent about the shift. I'm sure others are working to figure it out at home, and it'll be helpful for all. Yeah, absolutely. We have some stuff in the works that it's not finalized yet.
Well, we have one thing scheduled, which is a Sunday.
That's true. Yeah, we're going to be playing a game with Jason from What Do You Do over What Do You Do Pods, actually, on Twitter, who is this just magnificent like beacon of
knowledge,
like, generosity and knowledge and warmth, and has like sat down with us and spent like multiple hours just like talking us through Pathfinder and character creation, like what the differences are, and so we're going to be playing a session with him where he'll be DMing, so I get to play for a little bit because I like to experience systems from the player's perspective first and then dive into the DM side after. But like I've got ideas already as far as like conditions in 5e versus conditions in Pathfinder operate very, very differently, and so I think that I'm going to sort of take that and maybe we'll sort of like homebrew a condition that has to do with Azad's PTSD, where you're going to take a negative penalty if you like roll poorly on a check against these experiences, and how that plays out, whether it's just that condition or maybe we have like a momentary flashback where we get to see like a little bit of your history with your ex-husband. There's some stuff at play there.
We should definitely chat, because not that you don't have experience with me and my PTSD, because like that is something that you have been there for. But I think I just want to make sure that it feels authentic to the like actual experience, especially from like a CPTSD domestic violence situation. Oh, drink water.
Oh, nice. I don't have water. I just have tea, but
that counts.
It's my soon-ish.
But yeah, at the same time, like while we are playing around with some things that are heavy, I think that overall we're still trying to make this a fun experience to watch, and not just like, come watch us explore our trauma.
Yeah. Don't want it to just be that. These sessions are not going to just be like therapy, because I am not a licensed therapist. So first and foremost, we can't do that. Second of all, I guess actually there is totally a market for people watching therapy, because there's a whole show dedicated to it on TV where you watch people go through therapy. That's an aside. Whatever.
That's a show?
It's a show.
Therapy.
Yeah. People
it's on TLC. No, not TLC. I don't fucking know.
But yeah, you get to like there's a therapist who like she specializes in like couples therapy, and couples go on and go through therapy with her.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they like, they sort of document the process and like where they start versus where they end and yada yada.
The point is that's not what this is.
Yes, we are not doing that.
We're still telling a story.
We're not licensed.
Story. Not licensed.
Not licensed.
Yeah, not a doctor. Yeah, we only have so much time to trauma dump on our real therapists. D&D sessions are A, cheaper, or I guess like, TTRPG sessions are A, cheaper, and B, longer than your average therapy session.
That's
so I don't accept insurance, but I do accept cookies. So, yes, like self-imposed save after types of encounters. Yeah, I think that it'll be very much a dynamic of Katie and I, and potentially there's other folks that are going to be exploring and digging into other things. And I think that's going to be like an ongoing discussion. Yeah, Zeki.
My character doesn't have any trauma for sure.
No,
Definitely
not
zero.
at all. Not even a little bit. Nor do I have any plans to bring up any of that stuff in the very near future.
Yep, definitely not. Especially with anybody else that we're going to be performing with tomorrow.
No.
There would be no reason to even bring this up.
No. And I haven't set a precedent of going right after all of your backstories immediately because I think it's fun and watching you guys get uncomfortable on camera is a great way for you to get in touch with your characters.
Consensually uncomfortable, to be
Yes.
clear. Everyone's
Yes.
like down with the digging.
Yeah. Also, I think that this is a good spot to like reiterate. We talked at length, and I will reiterate it at the top of each of the like 0.5. Actually, I might have forgotten to say it at the top of the episode on last Tuesday, but at any point during any of these episodes, especially when we do like really dig into things that are more personal than they are just like a character trait, you know, we are all very secure in knowing that like if it gets to be too much, I can just say like I'm done, and we can, you know, I will transition. So maybe we'll take a couple minute break, decompress, chat, check in, that kind of thing. Aftercare is real, y'all. This doesn't just apply to like BDSM encounters. It's important for emotionally heavy TTRPG sessions too. You know, take care of your players, take care of your DM. You know, it's important that people feel like if this is a thing that I want to explore, I can do so in a way where I know that my best interest is at heart. And I will be taken care of through that process. You know, I will never be pushed past a point that I can handle. And if I feel like we're getting to that point, I can just say enough. You know, like let's pump the brakes. I need to like back off this. This is too much right now, and I'm maybe not in a headspace. So,
and we all chose characters based on what we want to explore. I think that that's also very important. Like everyone really developed their own character from scratch, and everyone chose things that are important to them to play around with. Like, you know, Ryan, ADHD, me, PTSD, Omar, autism, like all things that are relevant to them that they want to play with in a character.
Yeah.
And that, you know, we're not being like appropriated. Like these are all things that we have been diagnosed with, we struggle with, whatever it is, or we just live with, or it's just the way we see the world, or whatever the particular iteration of this is for the person and their character.
Yeah. My unending desire to be a paternal figure to those around me. We're not going to unpack that right now.
Yeah, that's the problem, that we don't get to dig into your trauma.
I mean,
that's the campaign, sweetie.
That's true. But yeah, I think
I was going to say something and I forget what it was now. Oh, I know what I was going to say. I feel really like honored and privileged to be sort of entrusted with the in-game exploration of these things by all of you. Like I want to say that, and like it really has meant a lot to see how the characters have gone from, you know, this like little stick figure of, oh, like this could be a fun thing, to like there's potentially some really heavy shit in all of the backstories, and having each of you as players sort of, you know, I mean, Katie, in your case, obviously we're married. I know your shit, right? But
God, are we married? Yikes.
Technically, it's weird. But having each of you develop these characters that like have these really heavy emotional things to deal with in your backstory, and to say like, hey, look, if you're gonna do that, like we're gonna delve into that, and each person say, yeah, I'm comfortable with that, has been like really humbling for me as a DM, and as a person, because it's like it's that's a huge responsibility, and it means a lot to me that you would all feel comfortable and safe to do that. So I want to say that like right out the get-go, like that is something that I don't take lightly, and it has meant a lot. So here's to you guys.
Aw, thanks, Ben.
I'm out of tea. Cheers.
I'll just drink some more water for you.
There you go. Katie, actually, I'm kind of curious. How did your character develop over the course of the session from where you thought it was going to what you thought it was going to be to what it is now?
I don't know. So the thing about her is that usually going into a session, I have a character, and I don't just mean a character like, oh, my character sheet. I mean, they are some type of character, right? Like they are a little bit larger than life in some way. They have either some sort of voice or accent or, you know, whatever. Like there is something there. There's a little bit bigger and easy to sort of grasp onto and be like, oh, I know them. Like I can just kind of like play them through one shot or whatever. And this is the first time I haven't done a character voice, which was an interesting choice for me because I was
an
like,
unexpected choice.
I
from
know,
my side as well.
I know, right? It's just weird because I felt like she is more of like she's not eccentric. She just is. And I haven't really figured her out yet. There were pieces of her that I found, especially like that dichotomy of like being a child versus being a parent, and especially without her children right now, kind of falling back into that trap of being like a little bit more childish, but also wanting to be able to give that maternal care. And I think that I am still, and I'm like happy to say this, like I am still very much figuring out who she is and who she is going to be and where she is going to go. She felt cohesive through all of the session that we did on Tuesday, which was great. I didn't feel like she was making choices that felt off brand for her. I just was still kind of like, words were coming out of my mouth and I was like, I still don't know who she is. And I think that's going to gel. And I think, you know, that can happen with characters like the first couple of sessions. I know even with Denis, it took me a couple of sessions. And she is like ridiculously larger than life and obnoxious and a pain in the ass. And it took me a couple of sessions to really like be like, oh, this is her. It's clicked. Here she is. I'm waiting for the click, I guess.
Yeah.
I can't wait for your character to meet Corna. 9-year-old Corna.
Oh God.
Old for his age, Corna.
I'm already treating Rev like a child, so I can't even imagine where. Yeah.
Just wait till you hear the character voice.
I'm very excited. Zeki, with how I'm not trying to put you on blast. How much were you able to watch of the previous session? Because I have a question for you, and I
caught like 15 minutes after like the first hour.
Okay.
Which gave me zero context, and I really just got to like hear some character voices and really hear I think it was a conversation between like Katie's character and Rachel's character. And I think you had like been reiterating the fact about her arms like they used to be sticks.
And Katie's missing, but
and Katie's missing for this, of
naturally.
course. But it was just like a really like cute conversation, and like reiterating the fact that like now, Rachel's character, I believe his name Rev.
Ryan's character is Rev. Rachel's character is Patchwork. Yeah.
Patchwork, right?
Yeah. Patchwork is our little Modron.
Yes. And Patchwork, the most adorable little Modron of all time.
Love that little Modron. So cute.
Used to literally have like a stick, but there's like, and I remember like almost like holding back because I remember our session 0.0 that we had at your house. So like I know a little bit more information about that arm as well. So I know like extra stuff behind the curtain. So like for me, it has like additional meaning. So like keep that in mind, viewers, that you're getting some like additional tea right now, Easter egg for you to look out for in the near future. Maybe, who knows? It might never come up again.
It's never gonna come up.
Yeah, it'll never come up again, but it might.
Yeah.
And this is your scoop. But
what was the question you wanted to ask Zeki?
So the question I was going to ask Zeki is like, is there and I guess given the chunk that you were able to watch, it might not be relevant, but I'm curious if there is a character, whether player character or NPC, that you are particularly excited for your character Corey to meet.
I am super excited for Corey to meet this carnival. Like I think, you know, like little kobold who's been living in the woods and like ran around like a wild boy in town solving mysteries for people is going to
Where are my glasses?
it's gonna have like almost like a melt pretty much. Oh, they're on your head, mister.
Oh, geez, thanks, little guy.
Mystery solved.
You're so good at this.
You know, like that is like what Corey's been going through the past couple years, right? And so like this whole thing is gonna just be like this mirror cracking, shattering moment where his world is just gonna like explode in its size. So I think it's gonna be amazing. I'm super excited about tomorrow. But that's kind of some of the stuff that I'm looking forward to as a player. But I think Corey I think he'll be super ecstatic to meet a Modron.
Patchwork is great to me.
Also, I love that like there's a definitive question as to whether or not Patchwork like kind of has like a bit, not necessarily like, a romantic thing, but like Patchwork definitely like has a thing for Billiam, who is a Furbolg, which that's going to be an interesting thing to sort of move over. I'm not really sure how we're going to do that yet. Pathfinder, I don't know off the top of my head.
That's a problem for another day.
That's for future me to figure out. But I'm very excited for that whole interaction, and there's some fun stuff happening there. Katie, what about you? Are out of the boys, is there one that you are particularly that you or maybe Azad or either of you, both of you are excited to meet?
So in character, no, but not because I'm not, just because like I don't think that Azad is even thinking about that. What
I don't know that she really knows.
No, I mean she knows about Alex's character. But what I'm actually excited about is not necessarily like an in-game story plot piece. I'm excited to see Alex playing. Because for anyone who missed any of the other chats we've had about this, Alex is we studied theater in London together. So Alex's background is in like stage and improv and drama and like all that kind of stuff. And he has played a very, very, very small amount of TTRPGs. It is not something that he is super familiar with. And I love watching new people, especially actors, play, because they do and say and like try to do like hijinks and just sort of like shenanigans that you wouldn't normally do if you know the rules. And sometimes it's super fucking cool. And so I'm really excited to watch him play around the world.
It's gonna be fun. I mean, just sort of like to that point, watching new people, like people who are new to TTRPGs, try one for the first time is always just like such a cool thing. I always think back to Victor when we were playing, and he was like, "Wait, so I can do anything?" And I was like, "If you can justify it, you can do anything." And the look on his face, being like, "Oh shit!" Like that moment of like, "Oh, the world is my oyster. I can do whatever the fuck I want." Like that was such like a moment for me where I was like, I will probably never forget the look on his face, because it was just this like when when you just feel like your like brain is just like your skull splits open, your brain just like explodes out the top of your head. It was like one of those where like, oh shit. My moment was when I heard Abria Iyengar say, "What you don't see is," and I was like, I could do that as DM. Oh my god. But like watching players experience that moment of realization that like TTRPGs really do allow you to kind of do whatever the fuck you want as long as you can justify it and it's not like totally outside the realm of what your character can do. And I love that so much. It's so much fun to watch that happen. Like what a great time. So
he's definitely gonna make the quality of the show just ratchet it up, folks. You're getting a lot of low points with these three on camera right now. Let me just say, just wait.
Look, hey, every group's got to have its anchor, and it just happens to be the co-founders.
It's us. We're the problem.
We are the problem.
Okay, so we have another stream actually in 3 minutes right
Yeah,
here.
So hold your butts. We'll
Don't
be
go anywhere.
Hold on to him.
well, like
Grab those gluteus maximo.
maybe actually go to
Maximi.
like our merch store for a couple minutes while we're like getting ready. Or if you are new to the channel and haven't followed us yet, what are you waiting for? We
Smash
already
that
told
like
you
button.
it is only going to get better in the next couple minutes. So sit back, relax, and wait for us to come back to play some games.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to be having a guest DM taking us through a labyrinth sort of dungeon crawler situation, which I'm very, very excited about.
We're also escorting. It's an escort
Oh shit!
mission.
Thank you for the sub.
Oh.
Speaking
Holy
speaking
cannoli.
of our wonderful DM.
Dang.
All right, we're gonna pop off, go get in StreamYard with them, and then we will be back. So don't leave, or we will
Yeah.
be sad.
Awesome.
Don't go anywhere. I'll find you, and then I'll walk you through all of your emotional trauma.
Don't scare our
we
new
need to
subscribers.
go. We need
Stop
to go
that.
now so we can
Bitch.
come back.
I love you guys.
All
I'm
right,
just kidding.
later.
All right,
Go on a
Be right back.